Welcome inside the Coach's Den here at Swiss Mountain Village. It's a beautiful day outside. The high today is sunny and 74. Hasn't really been the case the past couple of weeks. You haven't been home since March 17th in that first game against the Richmond Rough Riders. The subsequent game against the Florida Tarpons was canceled due to inclement weather, and it also snowed here in the high country a few days ago. This season, how has the weather and being on the road affected your team?
The biggest problem we've had is the practice schedule. Trying to get a consistent schedule. With the weather coming now, we'll be able to get a consistent practice from 7 to 9 at night, but most nights we're 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., so it's been rough on the guys.
And Coach Scott Meserve and I are out here at Swiss Mountain Village for another Coaches Show, and I want to talk a little bit about Darren Daniel, the star quarterback of this High Country Grizzlies team. Before you were, or while you were recruiting him, what was he doing that caught your eye? What made you want to bring him on your team in the High Country?
He's a type of athlete that's a leader by example. He controls the huddle, he controls the offense. Last night he controlled practice. We communicated well Saturday night in the game. He's just one of those special guys that you have.
Final score of the game last Saturday against the Carolina Energy, 87-52. Halftime score was 59-46. You were only trailing by 13. What did you tell your team at the half? This is probably the best half of football you've ever played, scoring 46 points. What was it like going into halftime with the best offensive performance of the season so far?
Everything we called was open. It was a track meet. It was a great fan game to watch, if you could see it. When we went into halftime, all we knew was that we get one stop and one score, and we're back in this. And we were within 13 all the way to 4 minutes left in the game. It was back and forth all the way. And they got 2 cheap touchdowns at the end, and that's why the score looks the way it does. But it was a great game, both sides of the ball.
Now, A.J. Stevenson had 4 touchdowns. He's a big receiver. Listed at his height is at 6'4". Been kind of quiet the last couple games for the Grizzlies, but went absolutely off against the Carolina Energy. Can you talk about his improvement as a player and his individual ability that he's bringing to the team?
We've isolated A.J. with certain combination routes to get him open. We're going to use his big body to get available in the back of the end zone or just throw it up on the sideline. We're going to complement him with a couple of different things this week and make it more dynamic for the fans to watch. A.J.'s a special. I'd put A.J. in the same category as Malachi.
Now, I saw one touchdown that A.J. scored. It was a jump ball. Darren Daniel was getting rushed a little bit, and he threw it up. And there were a couple other Grizzlies receivers, but you can tell that A.J. Stevenson was towering over all of them. Is that something you kind of implemented into the gameplay with the tall receiver, or was that just kind of a lucky pass and a lucky catch?
We watched film last night. We joked about it, and I said, "What are you doing, Darren?" He said, "I'm throwing to my guy." And he threw it up to his guy in the end zone because no one can out-jump him.
Do you think Darren Daniel and A.J. Stevenson are becoming the dynamic duo of this Grizzlies offense?
It's slowly. Me and Darren talked last night about getting the ball out faster. And we'll use A.J. and we'll use the other receivers how we need be. But whoever's open, get the ball to him immediately.
Now, Darren Daniel, his confidence, can you see his confidence rising a little bit, especially after that last game against the Cape Fear Heroes where he was pretty much getting hit every time he was in the game? Can you see him get more confident in the pocket, even with his scrambling abilities?
We went out and found an offensive line, and we only had 2 sacks this week. Darren had all the time in the world to throw the ball against a very good Carolina Energy defense. And you could see him gain his confidence as the game progressed. He was shaky at first because he was nervous, which is obvious coming off of Cape Fear, but as we went on, Darren got more comfortable and relaxed, and the progression just happened, and he looked really good back there.
Now I'd like to discuss this offensive line a little bit. You completely revamped the front line for the offense. A lot of big boys on that line too, a couple 300-pound clusters on there. Can you talk about what you did to find them and how did they get to the High Country, and how has it improved the team overall getting a new offensive line? Because they held their own pretty well against Carolina Energy.
The offensive line is the foundation of the whole team. We basically started talking to our players, talking to agents, and went out and found individuals that would fit our mold. DeMarcus Whitehurst at center, Marcus Haynes at right guard, and Jordan Farrell at left guard. And they work out together, they eat together, they do everything together, and they just met each other last week. So there's a true bond among them as well.
Yeah, you can tell that the offensive line is definitely bringing a new spark to this offense and the Grizzlies team as a whole. We'll talk more about that right after this. You're watching Inside the Coach's Den right here at Swiss Mountain Village.
Joe made fresh daily.
Look at you.
Yeah. Boom. Oh, 100% mozzarella. Kids are going to love these Hungry Howie's emojis. Hashtag sawsome.
The best part is they're edible.
They're edible? How's that?
Hey, get a meal deal for any budget, or get a medium one-topping pizza for $1 with coupon code MEDIUM1.
Hungry?
I've coached a lot of football games in my life. The win at Michigan was big for us. When I took that short ride on the shoulders of our team, we knew that we'd done something really, really special. The hard work and dedication and commitment that nobody sees is what leads to great victories. That's the same thing you'll get at Discovery Chevrolet. That's the reason I agreed to be their spokesman. Discovery Chevrolet is where relationships matter.
Welcome back Inside the Coach's Den. I'm Mackie Gallagher, the play-by-play announcer for the High Country Grizzlies, joined as always by head coach Scott Mazur right here at Swiss Mountain Village. And I kind of want to take a focus on the defense. Gerard Holloman had a great pick six earlier on in the game. He seems to be one of the leaders of the defensive back core. Can you talk about him as a player? Because I kind of want the fans to understand that the Grizzlies family unit and how they are individually, not as a whole.
Gerard is the leader of the defense. He controls everything as far as the tempo of practice. If guys have problems, concerns, Gerard's the leader of the whole team, the defensive team. He helps with the secondary quite a bit. Gerard can play linebacker, he can play corner, he can play safety. He's that versatile athlete. You wouldn't get to know Gerard too much because he's really quiet until he opens up, and he didn't speak the first week he was here.
Really?
And now you can't keep him quiet.
Now, when he's not speaking the first week he was here, is that just kind of nerves, or is that just how he is? He's not going to open up to you until he knows
He's
you.
just going to feel out the situation, get comfortable. And once he gets comfortable, me and him, we communicate almost every day. And what the game plan is going to look like, why we're doing it this way. He has his input, and I ask him why, and he can back it up. And he's the extra coach I have on defense right now. He helps out a lot.
And I'm sure that seeing out the situation helps even during the game, especially being one of the best defensive backs on the team. You kind of see out the offense and get the first step on them. Also, I want to talk about linebackers. How important is it to you to have versatility at the linebacker position?
If you look at other teams will put a big back there, and some teams will put a fast back there. I want linebackers that can move. So either the Holloman or the other one can go wall to wall at any point. I need that versatility, and also coming on a blitz that we can come from any direction. So I'm looking for that big body athlete that can move, and I think I found it this week with what we have in practice. We got some new twists we're going to throw in there. But overall, yesterday was a really good practice.
So overall on defense, do you think this team, and I know you're the head coach, but do you think on defense you emphasize speed over power?
Yes, we focused a lot on closing speed last night, pursuit to the ball. If we can get there, we can make a play. And the tackling is tackling. So the biggest thing for us is just closing speed right now.
Now, making our way to the defensive line, this defensive line is big. It could be probably one of the best defensive line in the American Arena League. There's just sometimes that they don't get that big push on the offensive line. Is pass rush something that you've been emphasizing in practice throughout the season?
Yeah, we've added some individuals the past week. Francis Mays, he's a big body, 6'9" defensive lineman on the field side. Amani Yarborough is going to be our nose guard. He had a really good game against the Energy, and then we have Ethan Farmer backing us up on the backside, and D. Berry's helping out on all positions as well.
Now, unfortunately, the Grizzlies have some injuries this season. Has Ethan Farmer on the defensive line accepted any new roles, especially after Brandon Sutton went out in the first game? Has Ethan Farmer, he is one of the 5 returning players for the first game for the Grizzlies, has he accepted a different leadership role now that he's probably pretty much the big man on the defensive line?
I've tried to surround him so that not all the pressure's on him. But yes, he's stepped up and taken on some of that leadership role. We saw that in the game Saturday. We saw in practice last week as well. So he has stepped up and asked for the challenge.
Now, at one of the practices last week, I went around and talked to some of the defensive backs, and I asked them as a group, what can they do to improve their play from the last game against Cape Fear? And they said tackling. They can be the best in coverage, but they just can't get their arms around offensive player and bring them down. Then their job really means nothing. Do you think tackling has improved, especially in that last game against the Energy compared to the Heroes and even the game before that with the Rough Riders?
We're slowly getting better game to game. Last night we were in position to knock a lot of things down. We didn't have to make tackles. We're in coverage better than we have been. And all it comes down to communication. We've limited some things we do. We've moved some people around different positions, and we have a better bond now with that secondary group.
And now communication, I know we're talking about defense. I'm going to go back over to the offense. In the first game, there weren't that many play clock violations, just a few. But against the Carolina Energy, there were a couple. Do you think, being at home once again for the first time in a month, and that this extra week of bonding and this adding on to the brotherhood of the High Country Grizzlies, do you think it will fix some of those miscues and some of those mental errors?
We started that last night in practice. We put a play clock on every play last night so that we were ahead of the 25-second clock for every single snap we ran. I believe we ran 72 snaps last night in team, so we're fixing that timing so we can get more plays off.
So timing is a big thing for the Grizzlies, and Coach Meserve coming into this next game against the Triangle Torch this Sunday at 3. They will be at home against Holmes Convocation Center. We'll be right back, and you're watching Inside the Coach's Den right here at Swiss Mountain Village.
How can something be so close to everywhere you want to be, but also possess the peace and quiet you desire in a true Appalachian mountain setting? That's what you'll find at Swiss Mountain Village, nestled in a tranquil valley just off the Blue Ridge Parkway and very close to downtown Blowing Rock. For over 35 years, Swiss Mountain Village has been a haven for high country guests and families, a place where the relaxing is easy, a place where you can fish from the fully stocked trout lake or just rock your cares away on the front porch. Then, when it's time for high country activities, you are close to everything. Swiss Mountain Village is only just a few minutes from the Blue Ridge Parkway and Moses Cone Memorial Park. Also, just a few minutes to downtown Blowing Rock, Tanger Shops on the Parkway, Appalachian Ski Mountain and other area ski resorts, Tweetsee Railroad, Appalachian State University in downtown Boone, Grandfather Mountain, and many more. Swiss Mountain Village offers cabins made of rough-hewn logs, complemented by a native stone fireplace. The Swiss chalets feature a unique architectural design. The stairway to the loft actually takes you over the stone fireplace. All of the Swiss Mountain properties are completely furnished with towels, linens, complete kitchens, washers and dryers, gas logs, free Wi-Fi, and cable TV. There's also a clubhouse and outside barbecue. 1, 2, and 3 bedroom plus studio units are available, accommodating from 2 to 8 people. Swiss Mountain Village offers 12 beautiful acres that will become your high country home away from home. It's where you and your family will create great memories and a place where you will return to time and time again. To learn more about Swiss Mountain Village, visit swissmountain.com or call 888-785-1188.
So, how's retirement?
Staying pretty busy, actually.
Busy?
Busy.
Busy's good.
Honey, look.
Number 18 in the house.
It's the same thing every time.
You know I can hear you, right? You know I can hear you, right? I'll be here all week. For your many retirement needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Welcome back inside the Coach's Den here at Swiss Mountain Village. I'm Mackie Gallagher, joined by head coach Scott Meserve, and we talked about in past shows how practice has been an issue, finding a place to practice, finding a time. It seems that you're more settled in. Is that just a happier feeling for the team, being settled in and knowing when you're going to practice pretty much all throughout the week and not being moved around every single night?
It's consistency, and we've gotten to the point now where Tuesdays we practice at App State at the indoor facility. Wednesday, Thursday, we've been on the turf at Watauga High School. I've been very fortunate that they're working with us there. And then Friday and Saturday, we do a pregame walkthrough, whether it be on the turf in App State or we do it at turf in our arena. So the guys have a consistent schedule now that we're working on, which helps them out with their sleep and their workouts to get everything back in line.
And can you just see the players just, I don't know, being more positive, being happier with that, you know, having that schedule, having that consistency?
Or just they know. They're not waiting till 5 o'clock to find out when we're going to practice. I can shoot a text out at 1 o'clock at noontime when they go to lunch. Hey, we're going to practice at this time. Dinner's here, because we always eat at one of our sponsors. And then we go straight to practice after that. So it's really, the consistency really works out great.
Now, the Grizzlies have played 3 games this season. Unfortunately, they started off the season 0-3. Are there any particular areas, whether it's on offense or defense, that you've been mainly trying to focus on and fix in practice?
Right now is the turnover ratio. We're losing the turnover ratio bad. We had 7 turnovers against the Energy. We had 10 or 11 against Cape Fear. So if we can knock that turnover ratio down to losing 2 to 3 turnovers and get a couple more stops on defense, we swing this whole season around and we're sitting in the opposite direction we're sitting now.
Now, turnovers is a big thing on offense for you to try to reduce. Is takeaways a big thing emphasized in practice for the defense, or is it just getting stops?
Just getting stops right now, making plays on the ball, communicating. The stops will come. Carolina Energy was a little different with the run game, where I had to change my whole philosophy defensively at halftime. We ended up stopping them in the second half, but there was more communication with what was going on up front. So the more stops we can get, the better.
Now, Jerome Scooby Bryant, he had a receiving touchdown and a kick return for a touchdown. Special teams, it seems to be you're a big part of. You say that all your returners have a green light. Is that still the case after this game against the Energy?
Yeah, well, I'm working with a kicker right now. Our extra point team, we're going to focus more of that this week. We had a couple of blocking assignment rules that went haywire. We're going to snap every day in practice, and the kicker's going to get the timing right. We're supposed to be about 1.4 seconds on the snap to kick, but we've been 1.5, 1.6, which is giving them time to block the kicks. So we're adding that into practice as well, a little bit more focus.
Do you think the block kicks comes down to it being a little longer than 1.4 seconds where you want it to be, or is it just kind of lackluster blocking on the special teams front?
It was messed up. It was bad assignments. Watching the film, I realized what happened. The first 2 was bad steps by the O-lineman. The third one was a bad snap. So you can't blame that on the kicker. You can't do that.
Now, coming into this Sunday's game, what does Darren Daniel need to do to spark the offense? What does he need to do different than he hasn't done in these last 3 games?
I think just being consistent. Me and him are on a good communication page right now as far as what we're looking to target, being that leader in the huddle, and hitting the open guy now.
Now, this big story of this game was just a much better offensive line, much better than the Cape Fear Heroes game. The offensive line has some good protection. Watching film most of the time to where if Darren Daniel wasn't even rushed, he made a completion, and the wide receivers are getting open. The wide receivers have been getting open all season. I remember after the Cape Fear Heroes game, you told me that a safety came up to you for the Heroes and said the receivers are open. They just couldn't get the ball to them. How good are your receivers at doing their job, at their route running, getting open and getting off the line with ease?
It's not so much the route running, it's the play calling, knowing what we're going to attack and why we're attacking it. We stopped practice last night to communicate why we were running certain routes at certain coverages, And I'm asking the why question, and I'm listening to what they're saying, and we're adapting the play calls based on what we're looking at coverages. So everyone has some input, but it's more the play calling than anything else.
And do you adapt play calls for each team? Do you watch and study the team that you're going to play and try to adapt your game plan according to them?
It's kind of funny because you only have three DBs, so it's kind of everyone runs the same defense. It's just which way they're going to run it at certain times, and if you can catch it right. And that's the nice thing about Arena. This isn't a defensive game; it's an offensive game.
Now, speaking of offense, D. Barry is one of the big guys on offense, one of the fullbacks for the Grizzlies. He was kind of quiet in this game, not many running plays. Do you put an emphasis on run or passing plays?
D. Barry played more linebacker this past game just because we were short a guy. So he didn't get many reps at offense. We used Vincent Thorpe and Jalen Jackson at the running back position. And we're trying to figure out which one's going to be the best suit there, both blocking and running. We had to look at some of the running plays last night where we're calling one play, but he's bouncing it, and it's turning into a mess. So we had to readjust blocking schemes last night to fix a lot of things. So last night was a really good practice.
And can you just talk about some of the things that made it a really good practice? You talked about, having a play clock and getting all the plays out under, or getting them under the 25 seconds. You talk about Darren Daniel being more confident, consistent. Is there anything else y'all been working on in practice?
Just the continuity of the team. I let them do stretch. They handle it. All the vets are the leaders of the group. After that, we just break down and we go. Each position runs their own drills. I monitor everything that goes on. I have a script that we're following, so I can go back and analyze what we're doing on film-wise. O-line, D-line focused more on run last night than anything else. But overall, it was probably one of our better practices.
Now, Coach Meserve has always put an emphasis on the family unit of the team and letting the players be individual, letting them run the team, and then he monitors over them. That's just one thing he prides himself on. And the Grizzlies are a big brotherhood in the high country. After the break, we'll talk about what the Grizzlies are doing in the community this week and what the Grizzlies need to do to get the W at home this Sunday against the Torch. You're inside the Coach's Den with head coach Scott Meserve right here at Swiss Mountain Village.
Hi, I'm Bob Brewer, owner of Anytime Fitness and offensive line coach for the High Country Grizzlies.
And I'm Dexter Jackson, wide receiver for the High Country Grizzlies and personal fitness trainer.
We have a new, larger facility with 24/7 access.
Within our training program, we provide a focus on your personal goals for a healthier lifestyle and create customizable training programs.
Come in for a free consultation and get a fitness plan tailored just for you.
Come join us at Anytime Fitness Room.
Step away from the exercycle and step outside yourself in Boone, North Carolina.
I remember a lot of great moments on this football field. Caring about each other is what brought our teams together. The foundation of our program was trust and respect, and that's exactly what you'll get at Discovery. That's the reason I agreed to be their spokesman. Discovery Chevrolet is where relationships matter.
Step away from the television and step outside yourself in Boone, North Carolina.
Here at Blackjack, we were voted the best burger in town 3 years in a row. Our story started with, we left Romania, it was a communist country, and we had to cross the Danube River on an inflatable boat. Me and my mother was in a boat, I had to swim across actually. I lived in California since '91 until about 4 years ago when I came here to help her run this restaurant, and like I said, I'm carrying on her legacy. I think we have the best burger, but I want you to come out here and give us a try and let me know what you think.
Welcome back inside the Coach's Den here at Swiss Mountain Village. I'm with head coach Scott Meserve, and their next game is this Sunday at 3 against the Torch at Holmes Convocation Center. Once again, Sunday at 3, an unusual time for arena football. But the Grizzlies this whole season has put an emphasis on community involvement, getting the team out there with the kids at local schools, reading to them, and then, you know, hosting dinners and meet and greets with the community. So before this Triangle Torch game, you're talking, normally the team does a lot of stuff in the community, whether it's tailgates, whether it's meet and greets at pregame shows, or some of the stuff you're doing this week in preparation for the Torch game with the community.
Right now, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we're doing a reading program from 10 to 12 at different nurseries and elementary schools this week. The big thing is to check our Facebook page and our Twitter page, because there's a lot of things going on Saturday and Sunday with a tailgate, but that's where all the information is. If you can get on that and see what's going on, even if you can't make it to the game, just come to the tailgate and hang out and support the guys.
Now, you can find the Grizzlies on Facebook. Just search High Country Grizzlies. You can also find them on Twitter. It's at HC Grizzlies. And with the reading program, that seems to be the big hit with the local schools, with players coming and reading to the students. Who have been some of the players that have taken the reins on that program?
There's been a bunch. What I try to do is get everyone involved, so there's not just one or two individuals. Dom Hobney does a great job. Darren was out yesterday. Jay Valentine and Victor Levin-Tritt was out on Monday. And I try to mix it up every day so that all the guys can get in the community, so everyone gets to know these guys. So it's not just one or two. So they know the whole team, not just one or two individuals.
Now, do you think being out there in the community as Grizzlies players, as they do, is helping them mentally for game days, knowing their community, not just being a team and having some people watch? And now that when they're out there in the community, people and fans at the game are no longer strangers, they're actually friends of the Grizzlies. Do you see that improving their mentality when they're out there on the turf for game day?
Yeah, the bond that, hey, I know that guy. I was actually talking to him the other day, and I get that all the time when I'm doing the play calling on the sideline, and someone will yell from the bleachers up top, and it's a great relationship you have with the community, and you're trying to provide the entertainment and the fun for them.
Now, here's maybe a way for the fans to get more involved with the Grizzlies. Can you talk about the sideline atmosphere when the team is on the bench, whoever's not on the field? Can you talk about how they are when they're on the sideline? Are they talking to each other, encouraging each other, trying to come up with ways they can better their performance throughout the game?
What I've got worked in is I've got two assistant coaches on the bench. I'm calling the offense and I'm calling the defense now. So I communicate with the guys on the bench as far as what the adjustments have to be in between each series. Coach Mo Gore controls the special teams, so I have a chance to get off the field for a little bit. But the communication line that we have worked out great last week, that I can make all my adjustments from the field to the guys on the sideline. But the communication on the sideline is big. If we have a breakdown, if we have a problem, if we have a good thing that happened, we all communicate it well.
And you can see by the final scores of the last couple games that the communication is improving for the Grizzlies. Now, coming to this game, like I said, against the Torch at Holmes Convocation Center this Sunday at 3, what do the Grizzlies need to do to get the win? What do they need to do this week against the Torch to get the win?
Our biggest thing is no turnovers. If we can limit our turnovers to 2 or 3 a game, get our kicking game back on track, and defensively get off the field. If we can have 3 or 4 extra stops, we'll win this game.
And turnovers, even though you got 7 against the Energy, turnovers seem to be dwindling a little bit now that the offensive line is blocking at a better rate, and Darren Daniel doesn't have time or doesn't have to rush or scramble. He can actually make his reads. So going back to the offensive line, because that was a big problem in the last game. As a team, can you just see them? Does the offensive line, will they play a big role in the outcome of this game against the Torch?
Yes, absolutely, because if we don't have any blocking up front, Darren's not going to get the ball off, and we're not going to score any points. So it comes down to the offensive line once again. And I believe that they're all at the gym right now, so we should be good this week.
So you can see that the offensive line is preparing for this game against the Torch. Well, that'll do it for us this week. Thank you for being inside the Coach's Den with head coach Scott Meserve and myself. And we're here at Swiss Mountain Village. Catch us every Wednesday on YouTube for the High Country Grizzlies.